Hello, welcome to Non-Inkable. So we went to our first Into the Inklands set championship yesterday, and won't belabor the point, I won! So exciting. I didn't expect to win. I didn't even expect to make it into the top cut because, as you guys know, this is my first TCG, and I've literally never played any kind of trading card game. I maybe one time played Hearthstone, I think that's what it's called, with my little brother for like a week. And I didn't even realize it was a trading card game. I thought it was like, I was like a big Neopets person at the time, so that was what I was into. So definitely didn't expect to win. I was flabbergasted I even made it into the top cut. And so yesterday, the Into the Inklands championship we went to was at Games of Martinez. And there were 26 people total, and we did 5 rounds of Swiss, best of 3, and then we did like a elimination bracket thing for top 8, and then I won. So I got my Stitch promo card. It's so shiny, and my mat, and I hadn't really paid attention to any of the promotional material, because I was like, oh, I'll just go, I'll probably not win, but it'll be fun. So I didn't even realize that the mat said champion on it, so that's awesome. Super exciting. So I kind of wanted to share with you guys my experience there and show you my deck and all that stuff. We're going to another championship today. I think there's like same amount of people and a lot of the same people. And I'm going to be taking the same deck. I've made one change to it. So yeah, let me change the perspective and then we'll talk about stuff. Okay, so here is what I brought. I didn't use this mat, obviously. I used my usual one with the little Mickey Mouse on it that I got off Etsy. Brought my deck box, got my cards, have my lore counter from the Trove, and then I have my dice also from the Trove. We got new sleeves because I was listening to the Podcana podcast. They were talking about how, like, if your sleeves aren't perfect, like, you could get DQ'd because they're, like, marked, you have to re-sleeve or whatever. The one we went to was kind of laid back. They didn't really check the deck. They just made sure you had, like, a deck and then that your deck list had 60 cards or more. I love my little deck box. It's a girl from Yu-Gi-Oh! Dark Magician girl. I just like her because I like her outfit. And it's shiny and it's rainbow. So what's not to like? All right, so we will talk about my deck. Let me organize it. So we'll do 1 drops to 5 drops. So this deck is basically an Emerald Steel discard deck with a couple modifications that I made on my own with Brian's help, basically to kind of suit more of what I guess my style. I didn't realize I had a style. Up until the set championships, I was probably gonna play Ruby Amethyst actually, because that deck is super consistent, and I played Ruby Amethyst a little bit, like on Pixelborn and stuff in set 2. But when I was playing with Ruby Amethyst during this set, I just kept losing. Like, it was, I don't know what it was. I was like, I think I lost my touch with this set. I just keep losing. I don't know what's happening. So then I tried doing the Sapphire Steel deck, which I thought was super fun, but like really hard for me to manage. So I may have not talked about this before, but I have ADHD. It's hard for me to concentrate, period. And so with I feel like with the Sapphire Steel deck and also all the ramp decks, there's like just a lot to manage. Like how many inks you have, how many cards you have, and then you have to kind of like, I don't know, like optimize basically all that stuff. And for me, I would just constantly like miscalculate. Like I would be like, oh, I want to do this, and I'd be like, oh shoot, I don't have enough ink to actually do that. Or like I would play something and then afterwards it would be like, oh, that was totally not the right move at all. And so like that was just happening to me constantly. And I think part of it was like, I was like with, like playing in paper, I definitely can't manage that because Pixelborn does a lot of the work for you. Like it tells you when things are resist, it tells you when things are evasive, it tells you if you've inked already, or if you just inked with Fishbone Quill. And so I felt like those things I would 100% not be able to keep track of in real life. And so I chose not to play a ramp set. I really kind of wanted to play Steel Song, but every time I played it, I just lose. Like I would draw either all characters, no songs, or all songs, no characters. And I could never figure out when to play A Whole New World. I feel like that timing is very hard, and I would just get it wrong. I would always just help my opponent more. And then I also even tried the Steel Song Pride Lens deck, and that went horribly. So normally when I try a new deck on Pixelborn, like I'll usually like win half, lose half. The Pride Lens deck, I lost almost every game. I won one. And so I hadn't really played Emerald. I played a little bit of Emerald Steel, I think, in set 2. And we didn't play Lorcana in set 1, so we really started in set 2. And Brian played a lot of Emerald Steel, and I would play Ruby Amethyst against him, and I would just be so mad because I would have no cards in my hand. And I was like, this is not fun. I don't want to play this. You can't play this deck. This is a divorce deck. So we call it the divorce deck because it's infuriating to not have any cards in your hand. But, you know, being the one discarding the cards, pretty fun. All right, so my deck only goes to 5 ink. So you don't really have to worry that much about like inking after 5. You can ink to 6, that's fine. And I did try the version that has Tinkerbell, but it just didn't work out for me. I don't know. I felt like I feel like with this deck, I play it like an aggro deck essentially. So I play it so that I try to race my opponent to 20 lore. And so if I'm getting to the point where I can play Tinkerbell, the game has gone on for too long and I'm not going to win. Which every single time I feel like if I get past like if I'm past turn 10, like I'm just screwed. There's nothing I can do. My character's not that strong and I've missed my chance. And so that was kind of one of the changes in thinking I had to make, because I think with this deck, it's sometimes hard to tell if you should be focused on questing or if you should be discarding their cards. And like Ursula's in my deck, but I don't really even use her that much. Like she's not someone I play every single turn. Okay, so in my deck, for my 1-drops, I have 1 Fire the Cannon. So this is deal 2 damage to a chosen character. And this was like a last minute addition we added maybe a few hours before we went to the championships. And it's mainly there for in case you didn't draw like Merfolk or a baby Robin Hood. And it'll take out, and if you're on the draw against like Amber Steel, you can take out their Cinderella before, because I feel like if they're playing Amber Steel and they put out Cinderella, anything you play, everything has 2 health, right, or less for your 1-drops. So anything you play, they're just going to let the Storm Mage on and kill it, and then they get a card, which feels horrible. And so this is to deal with that when you're on the draw. It's also sometimes useful if they play like a Rafiki and you're playing Ruby Amethyst. You can kill the Rafiki and then they don't have anything to bounce, so they can't play their Madam Mim, so it kind of like traps them. And I think the only edit I'm going to make to my deck for today's championship is that I'm going to add a Baboom. I wanted to add another Fire the Cannons, but it is uninkable, and I have the kind of luck where I will end up with a handful of like all Prince Johns, and I'm at 2 ink, so I thought it was probably wise to put something inkable. I thought about putting a Smash since a lot of people play those 1/3 characters, but it's so expensive. I don't think I would ever use it. So for the rest of my 1-drops, I have 4 copies of Little Robin Hood, and that's just a shift target for Big Robin Hood. It's also a decoy because I'll play it sometimes and then they'll think it's a shift target, so they'll focus on it and not kill other stuff, and I actually don't have a Big Robin Hood in my hand. And then obviously 4 copies of Cursed Merfolk. And so if I'm on the play, this is definitely my first card I go to that I try to mulligan for. If I'm on the draw, but I know I'm playing like a ramp deck, I will also play this because you can just get all the lore before they ramped up enough to do any of their Tamatoa, Cogsworth, Bell nonsense, right? Okay, so those are my 1-drops. So Curse Merfolk, Robin Hood, and then 1 Fire the Cannons. My 2-drops, I have Sudden Chill, 4 copies of that as my song. I have 3 copies of Mr. Smee, 4 of Flynn Rider, and 4 of Ursula Deceiver. This deck used to have 4 copies of Mr. Smee, but I felt like I didn't use him that often because I would just play Flynn and Quest. And Mr. Smee is like taking damage because I don't play the Captain Hook. And I did try playing that like Captain Hook, Mr. Smee line, and it just never worked out for me. And so I got rid of him to put in someone else. But he's still useful if you're playing, I think, like Ruby Amethyst. He's has the attack and the life to actually survive. Everything else is pretty small and can't attack anything. I like Sudden Chill to discard their hand. Sometimes in one of my matches, I did sing Sudden Chill with Ursula and then also hardcast it one time. And it was a Ruby Amethyst guy and he had no cards. And I think that like scarred him for the next 2 games because then he was so focused on trying to get cards in his hand, he wasn't really even dealing with the board. So some of it is just psychological warfare, I guess. So normally I just do Curse Merfolk 1, Flynn Rider 2. If I'm doing the Robin Hood line, I'll do Robin Hood 1, and then on 2, I'll do like a Smee just to give some presence so they can't quest. And then Ursula the Deceiver, I definitely want her if I'm playing Amber Steel, which I actually didn't play against at all yesterday. And that was like the matchup I was most scared of because I felt like everyone, at least on Pixelborn, was playing Amber Steel. And so I was very stressed out about playing Amber Steel, but I didn't have to play Amber Steel at all. So that was nice. But yeah, she's definitely to get out songs. I use her to get Be Prepared out of their hand. I use her to get Grab Your Swords. That's another one that like just nukes my board. And so I think she's really important. And sometimes if I can get like 2 of her in my hand, if I know I'm playing Steel or Amber Steel, and then I'll play one, make sure they don't have another song in their hand before I like quest or, sometimes you need 2 because sometimes they have 2 Be Prepared in their hand. But usually I try to end the game before we get to Be Prepared. The other thing though is like, it's hard. There were a few cases where I was like nervous and so I would check with Ursula. So for the 3 drops, I have 4 Ursula Deceiver of All, 3 Let the Storm Rage On, 2 Kit Cloud Kickers, 2 Benjas, 4 Prince Johns, and 3 Strength of Raging Fire. Ursula the Deceiver of All, I use her a lot of times to sing Sudden Chill to make them double discard, which they do not like. And sometimes double sing Let the Storm Rage On to draw a card. Strength of the Raging Fire, I only have 3 copies because it just is a card that never seems to work for me. So by the time I get it in my hand and I can play it, usually I have 1 character on the board. So it's 1 damage, or even with Ursula, 2 damage. So it's better just to play Let the Storm Rage On and get the free card. And then this one I only have 3 copies because it's a uninkable, non-inkable card. So that is why. Prince John, super helpful. So I used to play Prince John on 3 for the Curse Merfolk and the Flynn Rider, like discard a card when it's challenged. But if I'm going to play Sudden Chill with my Ursula, I will play Ursula on 3 and then Prince John on 4 because he just has to be on the board for his effect to work. The other thing is there was a few times I've tried to wait to quest with Curse Merfolk and Flynn Rider, like wait until Prince John is on the board and then quest, so not quest turns 1 or 2. But that has backfired and I couldn't get to, they got too much ink and then my deck couldn't deal with their stronger characters. So now I just quest. I play this turn 1, turn 2, play this, quest with this. Turn 3, play this, quest with both of them. So like even if it gets taken out turn 2, like they still discard a card. I don't get the full benefit of me also drawing a card, but I feel like it's better to get the lore there early and have them discard a card than to wait. I think it's more damaging for them to lose cards sooner than to wait and have them lose the same cards all at the same time, because then they've already kind of like been able to look at their hand and choose which cards they want to play. Whereas if you discard them early, it puts them in a tougher spot sooner. I have 2 Benjas, mainly for getting rid of Fishbone Quill, or hopefully you're not in the late game where you're getting rid of Lucky Dime, but also for that, but mainly for Fishbone Quill so they can't ramp. And then Kit Cloud Kicker is pretty much used exclusively to get rid of the opponent's Ursula, Deceiver of All, so they can't sing. Okay, so I did have a match where I was playing Ruby Amethyst, and it was getting kind of down to the last move where I had a bunch of characters, they had a bunch of characters, and like the next move we would win, and I played Cloud Kicker. They had like a Queen's Castle, I think, and a Merlin Goat on the Queen's Castle, and maybe like Lady Tremaine, and they just needed to quest to win, or I think they just needed Queen's Castle. They just needed it to be their turn to win. And for me not to win, they had to kill like 2 of my characters. I had like 6 characters or something. And I played Kit Cloud Kicker. And I said I didn't want to use Kit Cloud Kicker's ability to bounce their character because the only thing I could bounce was a Merlin Rabbit, and I didn't want them to get another card. And it was totally a mistake because they had I think like a Maui, they were able to take out my 2 characters. But if I had bounced the Merlin, they didn't have any enough rush characters to take out 2 characters, and I would have won. And I ended up losing that round 2-1, and I was so mad at myself. But I mean, I think for these tournaments, the other important thing is just like that was very, not devastating for me, but like I was like, oh man, that was like totally my fault. My deck tried to help me and I just blew it, tripped at the finish line. But like you go into the next game, you gotta just, take a deep breath, literally, and then try not to think about it and not let it phase you. And so I have 2 Rise of the Titans, which was mostly I was going to use for like locations and stuff, but I feel like it really ruins your tempo because you can't sing it, and so you're wasting a turn or 3 ink in that turn to play something, and like you get rid of a location, but then like you don't get anything on the board. And so usually I just ignored the locations and just out quest them. So I'm gonna actually go down to 1. And then for my 4 drops, I have 3 Friar Tucks, 2 Tinkerbells, and 2 Along Came Zeus. So Along Came Zeus, obviously it takes out a Maui, put some damage on a location, and especially because most of the cards in this deck have like 1 attack, maybe 2 attack, except for like Smee has 3, and then when you get higher up and you can play your 5 drop characters, you only have like 3 attack. You'll see I only have like Robin Hood and Beast, which are both 3 attacks, so they're like not super great at attacking them. And so that's where Along Came Zeus comes along. Friar Tuck is one that I have. I know a lot of people have 4 copies and I only have 3 because my goal is that I discard their hand and I have lots of cards because of Prince John, so I don't get to use Friar Tuck except for as ink. It is helpful kind of when you're later in the game and you like top deck a Friar Tuck and they have like 1 card they've been holding on to and you go, no cards for you. Tinkerbell, she is evasive. Her other important thing is that when you play this character, chosen character gets evasive this turn. So I actually used her to take out a Minnie Mouse, the Surfer and the Ruby Amethyst. I used her to take out a Minnie Mouse in the Ruby Amethyst deck. So that character is evasive. It's a 1/3. So Tinkerbell actually can't take him out. But because she can pixie dust somebody else, I gave her pixie dust thing to Smee, and Smee took out that Minnie Mouse, which I don't think they were expecting because I feel like a lot of those, like you see a little bit less Maui Hook nowadays. So, and it's played later in the game, so a lot of people assume that their Minnie Mouse is going to like quest for a bunch, and then you put this down and ruin their plans. And also she's evasive, so a lot of people don't have ways to deal with evasive, especially if you're not playing like Amber Steel. They have songs, obviously, that can like take out evasive characters, but a lot of people don't have ways to directly attack her. And so she can just quest away. I think one of the games I won because I had 2 Tinkerbells. My 2 Tinkerbells were out there on the field. They were questing away, and nobody could touch them. Yeah. Okay, and then for my 5 drops, I've got 5 Robin Hood Champion of Sherwood, 5 Beasts, and then just 1 Cusco for funsies. He was also a Day of edition. And so Robin Hood Champion of Sherwood, obviously the shift target for the little Robin Hood. So you can play him on 3. Sometimes I'll wait though, because there's like other stuff I would rather play. So sometimes I'll play Ursula Deceiver and I'll just leave the little Robin Hood alone. Especially if I know if I'm playing like Ruby Amethyst, they usually can't take out the little Robin Hood unless they have Pinocchio or that last ditch effort, which has been kind of annoying to deal with. But I'll shift him. And the thing with him is like, he banishes a character, you get 2 lore. So like, I think a lot of times the decision tree is like, do I want to quest or do I want to attack? And with Robin Hood, you can do both. And then when he's banished in a challenge, you get to draw a card. So super helpful in that way. My little sad beast. I feel so bad because I ink him a lot in the beginning, and then he also never seems to be able to stay out on the field long enough to actually for me to get an extra card from him. Like, he either gets Medusa or Tremaine or like little Pinocchio exerted and then killed by Maui, which is pretty sad. But sometimes when he's able to stay, I'm just like, yay, I don't care how this match goes. I'm just happy my little sad boy beast got to stay on the board. And then this Cusco card I added, I know there's some decks that have that like Robin Hood that quests for 4. That's like I think he's a 4/5 or something. But I feel like he dies pretty rapidly. And like before you can even use him. Whereas this guy has ward, so they can't attack him with spells unless they wipe the whole board. And then when this character is challenged, you may banish the challenging character. I haven't actually gotten to use this, but he did come in clutch for 2 of my games. I played him kind of like last turn, and I had like him, I had a beast, I had a Robin Hood. They all quested, and then the person like didn't know which one they wanted to challenge. And like usually my Robin Hood has a little bit of damage, so he's easier to challenge, so they'll challenge him, which is great for me because I get a card. And so, yeah, and then people don't really, it's like not an often played card, so I feel like they kind of just ignore him. Yeah, so that is my deck. So the only change I'm making for today is I'm taking out a Rise of the Titans, I'm putting in a Baboom. And so next I wanted to kind of talk about the games I had. So let me see. The first game, and I'm so bad at remembering. We played 5 rounds. I already forgot what the first round was that I know I didn't play any Amber Steel. I definitely played 1 Ruby Amethyst, which I lost 1-2 because of that little hiccup with Cloud Kicker where I didn't use his ability and bounce his goat. And it's still haunting me. I played 1 against Emerald Steel as a mirror match, and that person was running the Captain Hook Smee Giant Tinkerbell version. That's online, no edits, and I got pummeled. I lost 0-2, and then we had so much time because that matchup is so fast that we played a 3rd match, which I also lost. And it was, we were both top decking by like turn 4 or 5. And he couldn't get any cards. I couldn't get any cards. Prince John doesn't work when your opponent has no cards either. So we're just top decking, and I just kept getting like Flynn Rider, Little Ursula, and like nothing to help me attack anybody. And he kept getting like the big character, Strength, the Raging Fire, whatever. And it's actually the same person I played in the quarterfinals. And in the quarterfinals, I just had a much better top deck than him. And I kept top decking like... I think I discarded a lot of his cards because I think I played Ursula, Deceiver. He didn't have an answer. I sung Sudden Chill twice, and then I hard casted 1, so then he had no cards. So then he couldn't ink on turn 4, so he was stuck at 3 ink for a while, and then like he drew Giant Tinkerbell, but he couldn't play her because he didn't have ink. And so I think because of that, I won. And then I played a Sapphire Steel deck, which, that deck, I just become the most aggro deck possible and just try to quest before they can ramp to anything. I played 2 Sapphire. I think I played a Sapphire Steel and a Ruby Steel. The Sapphire Steel, I just ramped, and also kind of like a newer player, I think. Not that I'm not new. I say this like I'm a seasoned player. The player was as new as me. Maybe I've just had... like Brian coaches me when I play on Pixelborn. He'll kind of talk me through some of the moves. I think that was very helpful and actually very insightful. And then, so that person, Sapphire Steel, I think I won 2-0. And then I played a Ruby Sapphire deck, and that was for I'm trying to think. I lost the word. I was like, it's after quarterfinals, it's before finals. What is it called? Semifinals. And that person had Was it ruby? No, I think that was actually a ruby amethyst deck. And he had just played like I think as either a sapphire steel deck or a ruby sapphire deck. And that game had been so long. Like we were waiting because the top 8 didn't have time limits. And so we were waiting for them I should have taken a nap, honestly. We were waiting for probably like an hour for them to finish their game because they kept just like clearing each other's boards. And I think they were just so fatigued because he went to go put his cards out and he got to 5 and like his brain just shut off. And I was like, yo, you need 2 more cards. And he was like, I'm so tired. And so, he ate some fruit snacks, drank some Coke. It got better. But yeah, I think he was just so tired. And so against that deck, like the first round, he was like just setting up his board and doing stuff. And I had already quested to 18. And before he even realized. And then my final match, I played a Emerald Ruby deck. And that deck was so weird. I guess I've just never played against a Christmas deck. But it had like Enchantress, a card that I have like 40 copies of and don't ever use, but she quests for 2. I think she's a 1-drop. She's pretty weak, but she gets like Challenger. I think she's like a 1/1, but she gets Challenger when she's being challenged, which is pretty cool. He had that Ruby symbol card that quests for 3. And then he had LeFou Instigator, that Ruby card that like can, when you play him, you can ready a character. And so he just kept readying his Simba, which really didn't matter to me because I had let the Storm Rage on. I was like, ready your characters all you want. Go ahead. I'm still going to kill him. And he had Lucifer. But yeah, and he was the one who played the Deville Manor, on to the side. And so that deck, I was like very apprehensive because it was finals. And I was like, I've never seen your deck. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to be worried about, what to prepare for. And he also utilized Bounce, which is a card that I literally had never seen anyone play. But it bounces one of your characters and one of their characters. So he was like playing his Simba and then bouncing it. And I was like, God dang it. I need to attack this questing for 3 lore guy. But yeah, so that was my finals match. Ended up doing fine. Won, and then they gave me this stuff and I was like, and I totally didn't realize that it's a champion on it. And I was like, oh, that's an unexpected surprise. I thought you would just get 2 mats that were the same. So yeah, that is my deck. And I guess I can talk through, okay, so some of the new, I have to say, I feel like I've grown a lot as a player just in this past week preparing for championships. And to prepare, I played a lot of Pixelborn. I mean, first I had to decide on a deck, so that took me forever. But then once I decided on a deck, I played a lot on Pixelborn and I took notes. So I would note like what level I was in, the name of the person I played, if I went first or second, what ink colors they were, and then if I won or lost, and then like any notes about something I learned during that one. So like one of the notes I made was like, remember that Ruby Sapphire has Be Prepared, because I forgot and it wiped my board. And the first game I played at the championships, I was playing Ruby Sapphire and I forgot about Be Prepared and it wiped my board. And I was like, I made a note on this and I should have reviewed my notes to remember that. Yeah, so stuff like that. Or like, and I think the other thing is just changing, like watching the pros, just kind of changing how you think. Because literally when I first started playing, I would be like, okay, I have 3 ink. How do I use all 3 ink? I have 4 ink. How do I use all 4 ink? And like, that's literally how I would think about how to play. I wasn't thinking like, what am I trying to avoid? What am I trying to attack? You know, that kind of stuff. Like what sequence of events would be the best? And I do think that this deck is maybe a little bit simpler in terms of that. And after playing Sapphire Steel, where you have to make a ton of those decisions and you really get decision fatigue, I think this deck is a little bit easier in terms of how many decisions you have to make. They're still kind of complicated. Like when to play Ursula Deceiver. Do you play it on turn 6 and hopefully they only have 1 Be Prepared? Do you play it on turn 2 because you can? Kind of those. Because sometimes on turn 2 I don't play a character. I just hard cast Sun and Chill. Especially if they're a ramp deck. I go, no cards. I don't want you to have cards because I don't want you to ramp. yeah, so a lot of those kinds of decisions. So going into today, it's going to be a lot of the same people, because a lot of them were like, oh, are you going to Phantomage today? And I was like, yeah. And they're like, oh, man. But I feel like it's almost harder to go in, and there's like expectations now, because I won yesterday. And when I went in, I literally thought about going in and playing with a paper mat, because maybe that would make people be nicer to me, because I'm a beginner. But yeah, so I feel like it's harder with the expectations. And then I also thought about, like, what if I just play a totally new deck? And then if I lose, I can blame it on that. It's just like that kind of fear. I don't know if like pros have that, but a lot of times it's just luck of the draw. Like my quarterfinal match was against the same person that I had already lost 3 games to, one of which was just for funsies to let me see if I could win against him. The answer was no, denied. But yeah, so I'm excited. I feel like in a way there's less pressure, because I already got the promo and the mat. So everything else is just like extra. Kind of like when I play in sealed tournaments, of the 2 I played in, I was like, the entry cost covers the booster packs you get, and anything you win after that is just a bonus. So in a way there's less pressure, but then in a way there's more pressure, because they're like, oh, this is the girl to beat, And I'm like, I don't know if I want to be the girl to beat. I'm just trying to have fun. And another thing was, like, yesterday, I think when we were going into the quarterfinals, a bunch of people drew intentionally so that all of them would make it to the quarterfinals. And I was in one of the tables where, like, whoever 2-0'd would make it to the quarterfinals. And yeah, I was very confused. I was like, why aren't they playing? What's happening? Did they all just lose and quit? But actually they all were winners and decided that they all wanted to get into the quarterfinals. And I was like, this is too much math for me. And I was like, why don't they just want to play? I just want to play the game. That's how I feel. I just want to play the game. So like, if our matches are over and there's extra time, I want to play again, because I like playing Lorcana. And I feel like you can always learn something new every time you play, and like things that you could have played better. I think that is the hardest part, is just trying to figure out where you could have played better. Like maybe you shouldn't have attacked. Maybe you should have quested. Like one of the things I learned when I was practicing was like, if you're playing against a deck that has Be Prepared, and you're getting close to Be Prepared, you might get attacked. Just quest. Because if you don't quest, you're going to get Be Prepared and you lose that lore you could have gotten. And if you do quest, say you do get attacked, like, it's fine. It's not the end of the world. Just make sure you have some characters in your hand if you can. Otherwise, just trust the top deck. All right, so I hope this was informational for you guys. I'm no pro, but I did manage to do that, so that was cool. And as always, keep shuffling, and I hope you don't end up with a whole handful of non-inkables like me yesterday. I did get a whole hand of just Prince John, so that was great. Luckily, I had, I think, 4 ink, so I could get at least 2 of them onto the board in 2 turns. And another plug, our TCG shop is open, so there'll be a link in the description. Check it out. We're level 3 sellers now, so we're gonna be listing a bunch of new stuff, and then I will show off kind of I will do an unboxing essentially of all the booster packs that we won. So in this tournament, you won 1 booster pack per round win, and then the first place person got like, I don't remember what it was. I think it was like 3 packs of each chapter or each set. And so link for that unboxing. I did not get lucky on those packs at all, I have to say. My husband, who got 3 packs, I think, for winning 3 rounds, he pulled an Enchanted Arthur. So that was kind of awesome. He did not record it, but we did get an Enchanted Arthur. So it really paid for the whole competition with all the stuff we got and all the other competitions we're going to. So we're going to 2 more, one today and then 1 next week. We would be going to 2 next week, but it's my niece's birthday, so I'm going to her birthday party instead because it's at Chuck E. Cheese, which I've never been to. So I'm actually really excited for that too. So yeah, that's it. Leave any questions or comments you have down in the comments below, and I will try to get to them. And I am thinking of putting this out as like a podcast thing. The podcast will probably just be me because I like to talk. And let me know what other topics you guys want to be covered. Yeah, all right. Bye.